Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes, we can see your slides in full screen. Everything is fine.
Right. So we're just after 5 past. So
Yeah.
I'll make a start.
Yes, please.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for coming to this session with myself, Jody Bradford, and Thuy, who is here in the room with us. But we made an executive decision that because she's been very busy with the organising committee, as well as many other jobs in our language centre, that I would present kind of on our behalf, but she's here. And then questions at the end are directed at both of us. So hope that's okay. So just as a quick kind of funny thing, I noticed Kevin at the start of his keynote referred to the words navigating and landscape. Navigate and landscape. Well, to be honest, I've always used the word navigate even before LLMs. Decided here to put it in the gerund form. So we'd like to talk to you today about learning and assessment with GenAI and its insights from International Foundation Year Arts and Social Sciences module. So it's fairly specific from that point of view, the context. And I just want to say this has been done in the current, just finishing academic year. So what we are presenting today are emerging themes because we've collected data at both end of semester 1 and semester 2. And I'm currently doing a thematic analysis, including semester 2's data. So what we're presenting today are some emerging themes, and there are 2 in particular that we wanted to include. So over the next 18 minutes, I'm going to talk you through these parts. So I'm going to begin with a quick context and rationale and some reading that I've kind of dragged back out that I find interesting sociologically and I think is applicable to our context on IFY. Very quick skirt around a literature review, which I will say is based on mainly undergraduates and undergraduate-based studies. So there is a bit of a gap at the moment, well, actually a large gap for International Foundation Year. And I think if anyone in the audience focuses on International Foundation Year, I'll be very keen to speak with you following this presentation. So I'll tell you a bit about our study design and of course our preliminary findings and some potential implications and discussion. So apologies for all the kind of hedging, etc. But as we know, this is something we're working through and every year evolves and every year it's different. And what was very interesting in the data was that even within the 1 year, we had 2 students that I managed to interview both the end of semester 1 and semester 2, and there was an evolution in their thinking. So I found that really quite fascinating. It's very quickly moving, of course. So quickly on our context and rationale. As the theme of the PIM suggests, we are working firmly in the age of GenAI. So I'm not sure if you're at work in any capacity, you can avoid this. So even though in many ways I struggle terribly with it, I've been very conflicted with it for reasons that, you know, I think the boundary problem helps me to kind of theorize, actually, we cannot ignore it unless we're in a kind of ivory tower protected somewhere. So we must address, and that's why we're having this PIM today, which is great. I am really glad to see, talking with people in my centre, that there's a much more of a sense of scholarship moving beyond these binary debates. Do we ban it? Do we allow it as this amazing hyped up thing, which we all know it's not? And so that leads to, of course, as usual, that we really should devise some context-sensitive approaches for all levels of study. So the boundary problem, I enjoyed going back to because as Lamont and Molnar talk about it, it's shaped by philosophical assumptions, pedagogical priorities, and sociocultural norms. And I think in English for academic purposes, often we're working with different disciplines and in different settings and different contexts. And I think this can help us, this kind of framing can help us really to think about the way that we're positioned as EAP practitioners, and I would say how we position ourselves as well, to try and navigate through these kind of knotty, complex problems that we have when we're facing this generative AI big beast, really. So I think in our IFY context at Leeds, to bring it back, we are well positioned to help students, again, favourite word, navigate the landscape of disciplinary discourse knowledge. So It's quite an interesting article, I know, 2002, always relevant, I think. Okay, so a literature review, I did write up around semester one, actually, a literature review to see what was being said this last academic year. Of course, you always feel like you're running a losing race because evolution is so quick, but I don't think that's an excuse to not try to keep up to date. So I think what you can see here on the screen would not come as a surprise. And the studies that I read, some of them were UK-based, others were international. Generally, undergraduates this past academic year, last year, were worried about over-reliance, policy, misinformation. And the one, to be honest, that I'm most interested in, and me and Thuy have been talking a little bit about, is this idea of authorship and ownership, or even originality. So students concerned with losing their own voice, with not having an authentic expression in their academic work. But honestly, I think this academic year has proven we're kind of moving on from that now. And as Kevin was talking about, it's not an all or nothing approach. We're all being influenced and shaped by the language which is around us, which includes LLMs and their kind of outputs. We'll get to that data in a minute. So as I said, I think many of us in our centre at the moment and across the board, I'm hoping to learn tomorrow in our foundation year conference, thinks that international foundation year has limited kind of scholarship and limited evidence at the moment, and particularly around learning and assessment with generative AI. And my little niche is the arts and social sciences pathways and programs. So it's a particular disciplinary area, let's say. Okay, so nothing hugely surprising there, but needed to ground the study. So what was our study? So me and Thuy sat down and we decided on a questionnaire and interview approach. So a case study approach. As I said, it's at international foundation year level. So these students are hoping to progress onto undergraduate. In my case, it's the arts and social sciences pathways. So you can see here, last year, there were 9 pathways, 2 design, social science pathways, humanities, media and communications, art and communication, arts, music. So you get the idea, it's still quite broad. We can't have an extremely bespoke EAP class for one particular subject, but still we can use our knowledge of disciplinary discourse and genres that are used on the modules to help to for us to develop the syllabus and assessment. So this data was collected last academic year. So Thuy devised an excellent and detailed questionnaire, which we had a very good response to in semester 1, a bit less so in semester 2, but we did have more qualitative interviews in semester 2, which I'm currently going through at the moment. So that's why these are preliminary findings. But what I'm presenting to you today is our 2 themes that already came up in semester 1, and then they came up again in semester 2. So that's our context. There are participants. These are the numbers. It's not huge. It's a rich case study. We had 38 students in total this year. We had 27 participants over the year on the questionnaire in total, and 7 in the end qualitative interviews. Okay. So preliminary findings. I won't read all of these out. You can see the 4. Again, may not surprise you. But what interests me, I think, the most at the moment is the disciplinary variation. So in terms of the assessment genres, but also the learning and the syllabus itself, what counts as appropriate use, students think, for different disciplines differ. And of course, this partly becomes because at the moment it's a big transition time. Some of the modules are saying no use of GenAI is allowed. Others, and not only ELU, not only our module, others are saying yes, it is permitted in certain ways. So I think partly the disciplinary variation comes from the fact that there are different expectations from module leads on different modules. But because assessment genres are different as well. So I'm trying to kind of understand a little bit more of that at the moment. not only for assessment, but also learning. Just to pick up quickly on the second one, assessment design. I think we all know the onus is on us to redesign our assessment, not necessarily just to tweak or add, but to rethink of how assistance through LLMs is part of the assessment design. So fairness and parity is definitely a concern. So that is theme one. Sorry, I realize I'm running out of time. Theme two, which to be honest, I am kind of the most interested in this, is around authorship and ownership. So as Kevin talked about in the keynote, there's an awareness, and certainly what came up in the data, particularly in semester two, was that AI assisted work was happening, that it's a kind of patchwork that they don't want to over rely on. There was many of the students that I talked to were thinking about, okay, well, what is my voice? I'm obviously influenced by the fact I speak with GenAI every day, also for my studies. So what is an authentic kind of authorship? What is ownership of my work? So we don't have an answer to that. But what I enjoyed about this project was I could build that trust to speak with the students about what they thought honestly they were able to produce themselves with assistance, what the end result, which is a kind of patchwork, is, and where their voice is being kind of shared. And then this theme as well of intellectual ownership. So this came out particularly again in semester two, an uncertainty about a boundary, not necessarily just in policy, but also for themselves. They were taking a kind of responsibility saying, I think it's kind of up to me about how much I use this tool and how this will be beneficial for me or not in the future. And there's an acceptance, I think, that, yeah, everyday use influences study habits. There were disciplinary differences, which I don't have time to talk about now, but what I found really interesting in the small, so the interviews I managed to do with two students from semester one to semester two, one in particular had really evolved her attitude from being mega resistant and saying I can't, but then starting to feel, okay, there are maybe ways in which I need to be a part of this, and that maybe it's still my own writing if I'm speaking, or she used the word dialoguing with the generative AI assistants to help me complete, in this case, an assessment. There's all sorts of things I need to tell you about what we built into our syllabus, because we did a lot of work to talk with students incrementally along the year about their use of GenAI. So it wasn't just, okay, now you can use it for assessment. We were doing lots of comparisons and practices in class with different pieces of writing and helping to prepare for speaking as well. So these are the two themes that have come out so far across semester one and two. There has been an evolution between semester one and two. I think it's very clear for us as EAP practitioners, we bear responsibility. We bear responsibility for clarity, for transparency, for equitable assessment design too. I didn't mention before, but our International Foundation Year students have very different and wide-ranging English language proficiencies. So some have completed all of their education through English, it's EMI, have done the International Baccalaureate, others have not. So we're really assessing in terms of language, we're not assessing grammar and form, we're assessing discourse and readiness for undergraduate study in their disciplinary areas. So our assessment needs to be as equitable as possible. And I think Zhang brought up the point in his suggestions about, I think, authentic interaction, was it? Authentic tasks. When it comes to authentic assessment, we've got to be very careful using that term because there are many different terms, many different definitions in literature. As you can see here, I've put two. Miserandino, for example, claims authenticity lies in assessment that foster real-world relevance and cognitive challenge, evaluative judgment. Great. Whereas Karen Gravett is more looking at authenticity in terms of relational, affective, and ontological approaches. So when we are redesigning assessment, we really need to keep in mind, if we're using that term authentic, well, what do we mean? again, don't have so much time, so I wanted to pick up on number 3 here. Again, coming back to this idea of boundaries and our favorite word, navigating them today. So I think by hopefully drawing on disciplinary discourse knowledge that I fully admit this takes a long time to get to know, and it's constantly evolving and changing as well. But if you are lucky enough to be able to concentrate on certain disciplines, this is an area that can help us to try to bridge our student needs, of course, should always be at the forefront of everything we do, I think. Subject lecturer expectations, that's a big one when we're working directly with other modules and other module leads and their own evolutions with using generative AI or not as part of their assessment and learning syllabuses. And of course, the bigger level, the institutional policy on GenAI, which of course is in development. I was reminded recently that we're not solely responsible for it. We must have these dialogues with our subject lecturers in the wider university. It can't be all on EAP practitioners to say, well, this is what we should do. This is how we should react. This is how we should engage. This needs to be an ongoing discussion with subject lecturers at the very least. So let's not take on the whole load for academic literacies and assessment redesign as EAP practitioners. And of course, level-specific guidance is also important to bear in mind. So of course, international foundation year students and navigating very much their beginning of their journeys in understanding academic conventions, which I think are changing quite a lot. So it's quite a sensitive year, and we need to be very kind of careful with that. So they're not expected to be full undergraduates yet in what they produce as assessment genres, but equally we would hope they would be showing beginnings of being able to approach those. Okay, and then a quick debrief. 4 points here from our particular study so far, our small scale qualitative case study with our social sciences international foundation year students. We hope that it begins to address the dearth in the literature once we've been through the analysis and we've written up on international foundation year. We really need to consider fairness, parity across assessment, and I think question much more, thanks Yanhua, what is ownership and authorship in student writing and speaking, and even originality. Yeah, that's maybe another layer. Again, EAP practitioners, I would say, are well placed, hopefully, to navigate disciplinary boundaries and support equitable level-specific assessment design, hopefully. And we definitely need to avoid these binary all or nothing approaches. I would say it's the only thing I've not hedged today, sorry, but we definitely need context sensitive practice. We don't need to see GenAI as a panacea, silver bullet, or a complete existential threat. We need to find a way of working with it socially, to be honest with you. I know that sounds strange. Okay, so I think I'm going to stop there. So that we've got a chance to have a conversation with you, me and Thuy, who was part of this this project, which is of course ongoing. I hope to continue this investigation into next year. Here are some of the references that I've read and included in this particular very quick presentation. Thank you very much for the rounds of applause. I think me and Thuy will welcome questions